Hey everybody! Today we're going to practice painting in orange. And orange is a great subject for practicing bright colors with watercolor. Let's paint. Oranges are a great subject for painting in watercolor. They're very bright and colorful, and they really make a nice, lively, sort of cheerful painting. So I'm going to paint these using just 3 colors. I'm going to mix up some red and yellow to make the actual orange color itself. And I'm going to be using some blue to make my shadow colors. Okay, the reason that I'm going to be using blue is because blue and orange are opposite one another on the color wheel. So anytime you need to make a shadow color, it's always a great idea to work with the color that is the complement to, or that is, in other words, opposite from whatever color you're working with on that color wheel. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is just get that nice big overall shape of the outside of the orange blocked in. And that, of course, is going to be a little bit darker than the inner part of the orange. So I've used a little bit more red in it, okay, so that it just gets a little bit of a darker shade. I'm not using, one thing that I'm not doing is I'm not using a lot of water, because even though I want this to be very nice and bright, what I don't want to happen is I don't want it to get washed out looking. And a lot of times people will confuse light and bright, okay? If you want something to be light, you're going to use a little bit more water and more of the paper is going to show through. If you want it to be bright, you're going to use a fair amount of paint, but you're going to use more of your lighter, warmer color, which in this case is the yellow, and a little bit less of the darker color, which, since we're making orange, is red. Now we're also going to, as I said before, be using a little bit of some blue in our shadow areas, and we're going to introduce that in just a bit. First, what I'd like to do is get the body of the orange blocked in. So now I'm going to take, as you can see, the inside of the orange is much lighter. It's sort of a nice warm yellowish tone. Okay, so I'm going to put some of that down in the parts that are nice and light, okay, on the inside. And over here we have a lot of that on this nice inner bit of it where that pith, that's what it's called, the white part of the orange. It's actually sort of a yellowish tone. I'm going to put some of that in there, and I'm also going to put it on the inside of the peel. Okay, so here, this is where I do want things to be lighter rather than brighter. So all that I did was increase the amount of water that I was using. Okay. Now another thing that's going to be important, down in here, we start to get darker again. So I'm going to go back to using a little bit less water and a little bit more paint, plus a little bit more red in some of the paint that I put down in this section right here. There we go. So now it starts to look like it gets nice and a little bit darker in there. We actually start to see a little bit of some of those ridges that we have in the oranges. And I can also put a few little spots of it just to sort of hint at the idea of that nice juicy part sort of translucently showing itself through some of that pith. And then I'm going to take a little bit more and just start to hint at what's happening over in this area. Okay, and let's get a little bit more of some of that darker tone just down here in these shadow parts. And then we're going to actually mix up a little bit of a purplish tone for our shadows. Okay, now the shadows that we have are what's really, really going to help tonight to make this grounded and make it look like it's sitting on the table. Okay, so I want to put those down pretty early on so that it doesn't look like this little orange is just floating around on the middle of the paper. Okay, so we're going to put some of that underneath it. Oh, ran a little bit, but that's okay. Going to just go right up into this area, which is nice because that's going to just start to lift things up over there, and then have some right behind the part that's over here in this end part, right over here. Okay, and that just sort of tells us what the shape of that is going to be. And then as we move away from that shadow, I always like to let those shadows fade out very, very naturally. Okay, now we've got everything placed. The thing that we're missing is the shadows that are on the orange itself, okay? So I'm going to take a little bit of some more of the, throw a little bit more blue in with that color that I was just using, and I'm going to mix that with some of the orange that I had used before. And I'm going to go back in and I'm going to put some of that down. Whoops, I need a little bit more water. In some of the places where I want there to be some shadow on the inner part of the orange itself. Okay, so maybe in here, there's a nice piece that's sort of standing up. I want to be able to see that. So the only way I'm going to be able to do that is if I put a little bit of shadow behind it. Okay, this part here has a little bit of shadow on that left-hand side of it. That's going to help to make it start to look more three-dimensional. Okay, now I also need to get, because it's wet, I need to get a little bit of some of that darker tone that I just mixed up. I need to get a little bit of that on this bottom half as well, because our light's coming from the top, so we want to make it look as if it has a darker, sort of more muted tone in some of those areas. We also have a nice bit of shadow right underneath that peel that's up there. So again, I'm just mixing a little bit of blue in with what I have here, okay, just to make that stand out a little bit more. And then as we go back into here and get a little bit more of the red and yellowish tone that I had going before, I just want to get a little bit more of some darker values in there. We could use a little bit of that in this central part as well, just to start making it look like it has a little bit more depth, maybe a little bit on the bottom of some of these. Okay, and we're going to leave this as a really nice, very loose sort of a little study. I don't want to put too much detail on it. I want to make it seem like it's a little bit on the abstract side, so we're not going to fuss with things too much. Okay, need to just sort of lean back from it and get a little bit of a better idea of what I have going on. I wish it was drying a little bit faster. It seems to be taking a long time, but that's okay. Let's see, let's get a little bit more of a little bit of this slightly darker bluish tone on this bottom part here, because I just want this to look like it's in shadow. Okay, and I need to lean back a little bit. Okay, I just want to get a little bit more in here and just pull that back a teeny tiny bit. Need a little bit more shadow back in here. Okay, I want that to feel like it really leans over the top. And I need a little bit more of some of this to go through here. Okay, and let's just pull that together there a little bit. Okay, I want to get a little bit more color in there. It's always important if you're working with something that's brightly colored to not lose that nice sense of vibrancy, because an orange is not a dull sort of a subject. I think that's going to be it for this one. Well, that was easy. Keep practicing and your bright colors will start to pop in no time. And if you like this video, be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.